How's it going, gamers? Welcome to the dojo. Today we're going to be taking a look at an old lot of DMG Gameboys I picked up and taking it from something like this to something like this. So, the DMG Gameboy, one of the OG Gameboys that started it all, did come after like the Game & Watch and whatnot, but the chunky, clunky form factor that we knew to be the DMG. And I actually shot this in truth, in all honesty, months ago. I picked up this lot over 5+ months ago, and then eventually got around to shooting a video on, just testing it out, cleaning the DMG. My original intentions for this were really just I kind of film whenever I kind of work on things and tinker with things. And we cleaned up the DMG Game Boy. We eventually decided on doing a reshell, and ultimately I also did a speaker mod for the DMG. So all of that's going to be captured in this video. I had original intentions of doing like an IPS mod or something of that nature, and maybe that's still something I'll do down the road, but I wanted to kind of save that for like the Game Boy Advances and the more modern, if you will, handhelds that I'll actually use and play games on. This, in all honesty, was before me and before my time, but I do think there's something fun about taking something retro and old and breathing new life into it. So, hope you enjoy. So here we have a couple of those DMG Game Boys that I got, and like I mentioned, I got a lot not that long ago with all sorts of accessories like the Light Boy and the Game Genie and this OG Nintendo Game Boy bag for you to, of course, take your Game Boy on the go. This came with I believe like a multiplayer or multi-tap adapter and another OG Game Boy in there. I got these in varying states. This one, however, I got in a separate lot, and this one is guaranteed working. So I have tested this and boxed this earlier. So for a good measure here, let's go ahead and throw in some AA batteries here. And the goal is to have one that I can keep for stock purposes, and then the other we will be hopefully looking to mod depending on its condition and state. So here we have the batteries in. Let's go ahead and do the test here. If I can find out where the power switch is. Oh, that speaker sounded rough. So is that maybe the game? So it's just turning on. Good old cartridge. And there we have the logo. Oh, doesn't look perfect though. Let's try that again. You can adjust the contrast wheel there. Which is, I'm so used to that just being like a volume wheel. Oh. But yeah, I mean, an upgrade like this, or a mod like for a screen like this would definitely benefit from a drop in IPS, as you can imagine. Okay, so this one's turning on. Game is working here, and let's just go ahead and validate that the buttons and everything work. Works some of the time, but obviously has some issues there. But nonetheless, I think, and if it's truly an issue, maybe we can look into a speaker replacement. But nonetheless, I still think this would be the good candidate for the actual mod. That way we can keep this one over here stock, and given the, overall condition of this thing, we can go ahead and give it a nice facelift. This shell in question, really excited to see how this looks in the swap, especially coming off of this as it stands. So I haven't looked much into the disassembly of this, but typically with the older retro consoles tends to be pretty easy, but I might be foreshadowing some potential failures to come. We'll see. Oh, there you go. Okay. That took some finessing, but we got it out. Looks like this is the top assembly, so the screen and everything here. And the bottom half, where we have like the capacitors. Looks like this is for the headphone jack. And I am going to give this board a kind of once over as soon as I can kind of get everything out here. So I think to lift it out, I'm just trying to see how. I think it should just kind of pop out. Looks like we have a screw there, so let's get that out. Okay, so with that out, this piece will just lift out, and I'm pretty sure I can kind of just get the whole board, just to kind of lift out there. Just tilt this forward. Kind of finesse it out there. And there, the bottom is just a shell. So I think I might need to transfer this metal plate. We'll see, I'm assuming, because I do not think... Oh, no, actually, no. The replacement shell has that. So that's just the back half. Set that aside. And since I have this open, it's a good time to kind of give this a clean. So some isopropyl alcohol, Q-tip. And we're going to give that a once over so that we can clean a lot of the board, especially the pins for the game. Cleaning. In this case, we'll clean that top half too. This one's a little hard to get into the pins because of the nature of the slot there, especially like on the switch housing. So like right up here, I want to make sure I get in there, clean that out, and then just kind of run the switch back and forth. Okay, and with that wipe down complete, I'm just going to set that aside temporarily to let that fully dry off, and then we're going to repeat the process here on the front housing. So this is what houses the screen, all those parts, and the speaker. So if you were doing a speaker replacement or upgrade, this is where you can do that, which I believe there are some mods for that. So speaker, all that hardware, and the grimiest pieces here are going to be those like buttons and all that fun stuff in there, as you can see. So if you were doing a deep clean, this is definitely something you'd want to kind of immerse in some water and give that a good wash. In this case, I believe the new kit's going to come with all of that, so I'm just going to set that aside for now. Just kind of a closer look at everything again. Just the full board and the front half assembly. We have the third-party shell here. In the case of this kit, looks like it did come with replacement button membranes, which is always nice. Those are nice, fresh, and clean. You also have replacement screws and other hardware here, so like the little tiny pieces that will go into the Game Boy. So I think like the switches and whatnot. Okay, after getting the right screw head there so I didn't strip the screws, we're back in business. One more, and then the rest of those should be the screws that come in from the bottom inwards. Oh, is this just a... Okay, so this is like a protector for that little link cable there, looks like. There you go. Align that with a button, and then there you go. Just want to make sure that catches the switch there. So this one I particularly got is also cut out so that I believe the IPS drop-in screen should just work, depending on the model you get, so I won't have to do any modifications to the actual screen size here. Just got to align that, drop it in. A and B button, in this case they are not labeled, so I believe it doesn't matter which way or what goes where. That's all there is to it. Just align that, and then on the front half, there you have the new buttons. Obviously you can mix and match this. You can get third-party buttons to kind of match your theme. In this case, this is just like a all-in-one kit. Now we can drop this whole front motherboard and assembly in. Now, where we pause for that last bit of recording, just in case to cover ground. At this point, we are just resealing. You want to kind of close up the shell here, put all your screws in to kind of close everything up. At that point, you want to make sure, obviously, everything is nice and sealed off. It has a nice close there all the way around. All the ports are aligned. If you're doing something like the IPS screen mod and whatnot, then obviously you're not going to want to close everything up until you test it. In this case, since for this part we're focused mainly on the shell swap, you're good to kind of close everything up if that's all you're doing. Otherwise, test all the other mods that you did prior to closing up the case. That way you don't have to, pry everything open again. And then at this point, I am just wiping the screen here with a microfiber cloth because the final step here is going to be to drop in the screen protector here and the cover. So in this case, the third-party shell did ship with it, and this is just adhesive here that you're going to take off. Align appropriately, and you can get custom ones of this even. And just drop that in. Apply the pressure. And there we have it. I think this has a little film on it, so I'm just going to try to pry that off. Yep, has a little film on it. Let's go ahead and take that film off. And look at that. A little bit old, a little bit new. Let's go ahead and throw some batteries in. Up. Again, the Nintendo logo. We got power, we got sound. And we are in business. Today, however, I have this funny playing speaker replacement that's going to help improve the audio and just kind of replace the default speaker that is in this original OG or DMG Game Boy speaker here. And just to give you kind of sample where it left off, this is what the default one sounds like right now. Okay, so with the Game Boy shut off, we got to take out the batteries, of course, set those aside, take out the game, and start disassembly of the case and board. Speaker to fall out. You can see the speaker's pretty old, a little beat up there. Still working, but will be a nice upgrade nonetheless. Alright, so I personally am still very new to soldering. This is quite literally like my second/third soldering job. But this time around, do have a lot more tools to kind of help me out here. So I have some desoldering wick. 360-ish degrees. And wish me luck. I mean, it should be pretty simple here, but put the wick on. Just apply that pressure. Get more of that wick out. Okay, that should have absorbed it. Let me put the iron down. And there you go. Easy peasy in terms of removal. So I'm going to want both of those wires. There you go. Okay, that's much better. That's the wire's more pushed through there. Now I believe you can get like a clean amp mod and stuff like that to kind of, if you're getting like a lot of noise and stuff like that. And there is more mods I eventually want to do to this OG or DMG Game Boy. I don't know. There's something about like modern day mods for original OG hardware that's like fun to see and fun to install. Okay, should be good enough. Close it up here. And she lives. It's definitely louder. So one thing I did notice, and this is prior to, the volume wheel is still sometimes a little like rocky. Sometimes it'll cut out audio entirely. So that's something I'll separately want to take a look at, adjusting that. But the speaker is definitely more pronounced in this case.